The old wooden box slipped from the top shelf and crashed onto the living room floor, just as the afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows. I wasn't looking for secrets. I was only trying to clean out the storage closet after my wife insisted we finally organize the house, but when the lid opened, dozens of carefully wrapped birthday gifts spilled across the hardwood floor. Every single one had my name written in the same elegant handwriting I'd admired for nearly 15 years. The tags carried different years. Some were faded, some looked almost new. One was dated 3 years before we even got married. My heart pounded as I realized something impossible. My wife had been preparing birthday surprises for me for years, and she had hidden every single one. Before we continue this unforgettable story, take just a second to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to Lifeline Vibes for more emotional stories that remind us how powerful love can truly be. My name is Rowan Mercer, and until that afternoon, I believed there were no mysteries left between my wife and me. We had built a peaceful life together in a quiet neighborhood surrounded by maple trees, sunny sidewalks, and friendly neighbors who waved every morning. We weren't wealthy, but our home was full of laughter, warm breakfasts, weekend gardening projects, and ordinary happiness that many people spend their entire lives searching for. My wife, Maren, had always been thoughtful in ways that were impossible to measure. She remembered every small detail about the people she loved. She noticed when someone seemed tired before they admitted it. She baked birthday cakes for elderly neighbors who had no family nearby. She left handwritten encouragement notes inside my lunch bag even after more than a decade of marriage. She made everyday life feel extraordinary without ever asking for recognition. Birthdays had always been simple between us. She would cook my favorite meal during the daytime, decorate the dining room with colorful balloons, and surprise me with one carefully chosen present that somehow felt more valuable than anything money could buy. I never questioned why she always seemed nervous whenever I offered to help organize the storage room. She would smile softly and insist she would handle it herself. Looking back, I realized that room had never been messy. It had been protected. Kneeling beside the scattered packages, I carefully picked up the oldest gift. The wrapping paper had faded with time, but the ribbon remained perfectly tied. Attached to it was a tiny note that simply read, "For the birthday when life finally feels peaceful." Another package carried the words, "For the year you smile without pretending." Another said, "For the birthday after your hardest season." My hands trembled, because these weren't ordinary gifts. They were messages written by someone who seemed to believe the future could always become brighter. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I carefully placed every package back into the box exactly as I had found it. Something told me this wasn't an accident waiting to be discovered. It was a promise waiting for the right moment. That evening, the house filled with the golden light of sunset. Maren came home carrying fresh flowers she had picked up from the local market. She noticed the storage room door standing open for just a second. Before quietly looking at me, her gentle smile faded into nervous silence. Neither of us spoke immediately. We simply stood there as if both of us understood that our lives were about to change. I finally asked why. She closed her eyes for a moment before sitting beside me on the porch where the warm summer breeze carried the scent of blooming jasmine through the yard. The neighborhood children laughed in the distance while birds settled into the trees. It was one of those peaceful afternoons that somehow made emotional conversations feel even more powerful. She explained that years before we ever met, she had developed a habit during difficult times. Whenever life felt uncertain, she would buy or create a small birthday gift for her, the person she hoped would someday become her husband. She didn't know my name then. She didn't know where I lived. She simply believed that somewhere in the world there was someone who would one day need reminders that he was loved. After we met, she continued the tradition. Every year she prepared several surprises instead of one. She always gave me the one she believed I needed most, while quietly saving the others, because each represented a different version of hope. She never wanted birthdays to become about expensive presents. She wanted every package to represent faith that better days were always ahead. I listened without interrupting. The afternoon sun slowly disappeared beyond the rooftops as tears quietly formed in both of our eyes. I realized that while I had been measuring love by the moments I could see, My wife had been loving me through thousands of invisible moments I never noticed. The following morning, I couldn't stop thinking about those gifts. At work, my thoughts drifted back to the storage room again and again. I remembered difficult years when I had struggled with career disappointments, financial pressure, and the loss of my father. Through every season, Maren had remained calm, encouraging, and patient. I had always believed her strength came naturally. Now I understood something deeper. She had been preparing hope long before hopelessness ever arrived. Over the next several days, she slowly shared the story behind each package without opening them. One contained tickets for a road trip she dreamed we would someday take after. Paying off our mortgage, another held handwritten letters she had written during lonely evenings while I worked late shifts. One package contained seeds collected from gardens we visited together because she wanted us to someday plant a memory garden celebrating every year of our marriage. Each story revealed another layer of the woman I thought I already knew completely. The biggest surprise wasn't inside the gifts. It was discovering how intentionally she had loved me every ordinary day. A week later, my birthday arrived. The morning began with bright sunshine pouring across the kitchen floor. Birds sang outside while fresh coffee filled the house with its comforting aroma. Maren decorated the dining table with simple flowers from our own garden. Instead of expensive decorations, everything felt peaceful, familiar, and deeply meaningful. After breakfast, she carried the old wooden box into the living room. This time she invited me to open it. Inside were years of carefully preserved dreams wrapped in colorful paper. The first package contained a photo album unlike anything I had ever seen. It wasn't filled with vacations or celebrations. Instead, it captured ordinary, daytime moments that most people never think to photograph. Me fixing a broken fence, me watering flowers before work, me reading quietly on the porch, me helping an elderly neighbor carry groceries, me laughing while covered in flour after attempting homemade bread. I had never realized someone was watching those moments. She had quietly documented the everyday kindness I never considered important. The next package held a notebook. Every page described one reason she felt grateful for me. There were hundreds, some were only a single sentence. Others filled entire pages. She thanked me for warming up her car on cold mornings, for remembering how she liked her tea, for listening after difficult workdays, for never giving up when life became complicated, for choosing patience instead of pride during disagreements, for making home feel safe. As I read page after page, I realized something painful. I spent so much time worrying about becoming successful that I had overlooked how valuable simple consistency could be. To her, success wasn't measured by promotions or bank accounts. It was measured by showing up every single day with love. The final package remained unopened. Its wrapping paper looked newer than the rest. She smiled softly and placed it into my hands. Inside was a small wooden frame surrounding a blank piece of paper. Confused, I looked up. She explained that the frame was waiting for a photograph that hadn't happened yet. She wanted it to hold a picture from the happiest birthday we would celebrate decades from now. She wasn't preserving the past anymore. She was saving space for the future. That simple, empty frame somehow became the most meaningful gift I had ever received. It reminded me that our greatest memories were still waiting to be created. The months that followed changed our marriage in quiet but remarkable ways. Instead of rushing through life chasing deadlines, we began protecting ordinary afternoons together. We visited parks during sunny weekends. We planted the memory garden using seeds from one of the hidden gifts. We invited lonely neighbors for birthday lunches. We volunteered together at community events. We filled our calendar with experiences instead of obligations. The hidden birthday surprises had done something unexpected. They had reminded us that love grows strongest through consistent small acts, rather than grand, dramatic gestures. Years later, another birthday arrived. The maple tree we planted together had grown tall enough to shade most of our backyard. Children from neighboring homes played nearby while families gathered for a community picnic under bright blue skies. Before everyone arrived, I quietly walked into the storage room. The old wooden box was still there, only now it belonged to both of us. Inside rested several new gifts. This time the handwriting belonged to me. I had quietly continued her tradition. Every year, I prepared surprises for birthdays still waiting somewhere in our future. Because love deserved preparation, not procrastination. When Marin found the new packages later that afternoon, she didn't say a word. She simply smiled through tears. Some feelings are too beautiful for conversation. They only need understanding. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone you love. Leave a comment and subscribe to Lifeline Vibes. Your support helps us continue bringing meaningful stories that inspire kindness, hope, and second chances. Special request. Before this story ends, please comment with the words, "Love is remembered." If you believe the smallest acts of kindness often become the greatest gifts. As the golden afternoon sunlight slowly faded across our backyard, surrounded by friends, laughter, blooming flowers, and years of carefully protected memories, I finally understood what my wife had been trying to teach me all along. The greatest birthday surprise was never hidden inside wrapped boxes or elegant ribbons. It was hidden inside every ordinary day we were fortunate enough to spend together. Time passes quickly, wrapping paper fades, photographs grow old, but a heart that chooses to love faithfully every single day creates memories that never lose their color. Long after gifts are opened and celebrations are over, kindness continues living inside the people whose lives we choose to brighten, and perhaps that is the most beautiful surprise any of us could ever leave behind.